Hello, I'm Kathy Shea, Huntington Beach City Archivist. In this episode of FlasHBack, you will see a Reflections interview of Mr. Jerry Matney, originally conducted in 1992. Mr. Matney served on the Huntington Beach City Council from 1968 until 1976, and he had wonderful memories to share, including the great cat licensing fiasco. He also shared his recollections of the opening of our City Hall. He was mayor when it was dedicated in 1974. In 2024, the building will turn 50. Please enjoy this episode of FlasHBack.
Hello and welcome to Reflections by Former Huntington Beach Mayors, brought to you by the City of Huntington Beach, Cable Channel 3. I'm Dr. Tom Cooper, your host for this program. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Honorable Past Mayor, Mr. Jerry Matney. Jerry, it's good to have you with us here today.
Thank you, Tom.
You know, as I was thinking about our getting together, and my experience in the city, as you know, was involved with the Recreation and Parks area. And I always felt very comfortable and at ease with the people who were on the city council, and particularly the mayors. And I was thinking with regards to yourself that you were especially a person that I felt comfortable with as a member of a commission to come and talk to you and to talk over things that were being handled by the city. And I wanted to tell you that and tell you how I felt all those years, that it was a good feeling to be able to work with you in that regards. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, your family, what you do?
Well, I work with delinquents, have for about 29 years. I started out with the probation department, then went into teaching at juvenile hall, vice principal, principal. Got active in Huntington Beach in the homeowner associations, was elected to the Fountain Valley School Board in 1965. And as a member of the home council, we got very involved in densities and zoning and parks and all those kinds of things in Huntington Beach. And then I finally was elected to the city council in 1968. My two children were raised here, Brett and Deanne. Went to school through the elementary school system, high school system. I now have two granddaughters and a grandson.
Oh, super. What are your children doing now?
My daughter is married to a dentist, and she's just raising her two little girls. And my son is in heavy construction and lives in Texas. He has a little boy. And
how about the other half of your family?
Oh, my wife has put up with me now for almost 32 years.
Wow.
Nedra was raised in Garden Grove, and I was in the Marine Corps, came out from Texas. And we settled for a few years in Garden Grove and then moved to Huntington Beach in 1964. And she's been very active in the city all these years, too.
What effect did you being involved in city government and on a school board, what was the effect that perhaps your family experienced, and how did they, or did they participate in your campaign and in supporting you in the things that you were doing?
My wife helped a lot. My children were not into the political arena at all. And I think because when I was on the school board, they were young and they were in the school district. This created a lot of problems from teachers, from peers, pressure in the community, even at home, because Daddy was on the school board. My wife was a PTO president. She was on the superintendent's parent council. And she was active. Then when I got on the city council, it was also a lot of pressure on the kids because my daughter was a teenager when I was mayor especially. She was graduating from high school at Huntington Beach High. A lot of pressure from teachers and from students because father did this or father did that. My son was a surfer and caught a lot of heat because of some of our policies on controlling the times that you could surf on the city beaches, affecting the Parking on Pacific Coast Highway, we put up parking meters at one stretch, and all the surfers came to the city council meeting and protested, and my son took a lot of heat from that. It was hard on the kids. I think being on the council was also hard on my wife. She served on the grand jury in all 73 and 74 at the same time that I was mayor, and I prayed that Huntington Beach was clean during the period she was on the grand jury.
What were some of the issues that caused you to get involved and run for city council?
Being in the homeowner associations, we were concerned with a newly developing city. Everywhere there were bean fields and pepper fields, tomato fields, etc., turning into houses overnight. It was just mass development. And being some of the early new homeowners that had moved into the city, we were concerned with what was going to be built next to our tract or even next to our home. And so we got involved in densities, we got involved in zoning. Mark Porter, Ed Cairns, Lorraine Faber, all the names that you know, Jack Green, Al Cohen, Bob Dingwall, all of us started out in homeowner associations, Henry Duke. And as we worried about zoning, we decided that it was time to get involved in the city. And in 1966, Bob Dingwall and I co-managed Al Cohen's campaign. And I worked on Jack Green's campaign with Prem Shea and others, Mark Porter and others. And Jack was elected along with Al in 1966. And then in 68, Al and Jack encouraged me to run, and so in 68 I was elected then.
And how long were you on the council?
Till 76, and I just burned out. It was 8 years. It was very tough years. There were some good things that happened, but overall with my family, with me personally, through a pretty bad surgery and some other problems, it was just too heavy, too intense, a lot of tension and pressure.
You mentioned there were some good things. What were some of the good things, some of the frustrations as well that you experienced?
Okay, I'll mention the good things first.
Okay.
Good things were finally getting 4 votes together to get a city hall site where we're sitting right now. You can't believe the pressure, the problems, trying to just find a site. Everybody in town had a favorite site for City Hall, or they could sit back and say it should go here, it should go there. The only place we could get 4 votes was right here across from Huntington Beach High School. And people will say, that's the worst place in the city. They don't know what it's like trying to get a decision out of government. We're lucky we have a City Hall. So that was good. We finally got that, and I was very lucky in that the timing worked out. I was mayor when we finally dedicated it. So I was the last mayor in the old City Hall, and I still have that old mayor's chair.
And what year was that?
That was in well, it was in
70.
April. It was March the 30th, I believe. Yeah, March the 30th is when we dedicated this new City Hall and moved into here and started holding council meetings here. So we left the old City Hall, and they finally had to tear it down. It was demolished. But that was a good feeling. Working on the park system with you, Lorraine Faber, and all the other people, Don Shipley, and on, that worked on getting the park system going. I really felt good about that and felt very strongly about that. And even though it took a second bond election, we almost made it on the first one, and the second one made it. The library, getting the library. Getting the essentials like the fire stations, the fire training facility, which I was fortunate enough to dedicate as mayor in 1974, a joint fire training facility between Fountain Valley, Seal Beach, Westminster, and Huntington Beach.
I remember in kind of reflecting and looking over some things that occurred back some 12, 14 years ago. One of the things that was mentioned had to do with animal control. Do you remember that?
Do I? Yes, I certainly do. We had a lot of problems with animals in Huntington Beach, and we had a local humane society that was serving as our animal shelter, and we contracted with them. We had a lot of community complaints, a lot of problems, and I won't mention the council person's name, a former mayor, who came up with the idea that made sense at the time to license cats. Number one, to find out who owned the cats, and I swear that this is the truth. We wanted to find out who owned the cats so we would not have to put them all to sleep. Dogs we could identify. And we would try to contact owners. The dog would remain around at least for a few days for the owner to try to reclaim their dog. But cats, we had no way of knowing who owned what. And we were handling more cats than we were any other animals in the animal control shelter. So this councilman suggested that we put a license on cats. It sounded good, we voted for it, and then people came from everywhere. And one of the problems that caused so much heat on it, and they tried to recall us and everything else, but one of the problems was the attorney's office took the dog ordinance and just crossed out dog and put cat throughout. Well, lo and behold, when it came up for first reading, it required a leash on cats, and that was the one that really ired the community. They were after our hides, and so we quickly backed off and appointed a committee of animal control or animal interested people to work on the ordinance, and they finally did draft a fine ordinance, and it worked. And then we went through other problems. We contracted with a different humane society who had several new cities, and that agency did us a great disservice, caused even more unrest, even more controversy, and we finally had to terminate that contract and hired the county. And I think we've had good service and a good relationship with county animal control.
What were some other issues that
there are many.
think about?
Fluoridation, I'm sure you remember that. We finally put that on the ballot, and people did vote for fluoridation. But at the time, it was very, very controversial. We put in a real estate transfer fee one year, thinking that that was a good way to raise money without hitting everybody. Everybody was selling homes and made good money, good profit off their real estate. So we just had a transfer fee to transfer their title after they sold it. The Board of Realtors and many other people in the community petitioned. They didn't have enough to put it on the ballot, but it was close enough that I and other council people were convinced that we should put it on the ballot. We did, and they were eliminated by charter. We can no longer have a real estate transfer fee. There are many, many things like that. I think anytime you get a tremendous upheaval from the community, if at all possible, to work it into a timeline to put it on a ballot, it's a good way to do it. You cannot deal with every problem. You have to bite the bullet and make decisions. But when you hit a controversial area that a large segment of the community is concerned about, it's good if you can put it on a ballot and let them decide. Fluoridation, you have fluoride in your water right now, no one even questions it. But at the time, there were many people that were very upset about it.
When you were mayor, who was the city manager, and how did you function with the city manager, and was it different than as a member of the city council who was not mayor?
Oh yes, totally different. And not only that, when you're mayor, you're much more knowledgeable than the council is, and it only happens because you're involved in so many daily activities, and you are working closely with department heads and with the city manager. When I got off the council, I felt like I didn't know what was going on. And when I got out of mayorship, and when I was no longer a mayor, I felt like I didn't know what was going on in the city. But while I was mayor, I was privileged to know everything almost was going on. I worked with industrial developers, other kinds of developers. I worked with department heads. So you're very involved and work very closely together. The city administrator under our system, the city manager form of government, or city administrator form of government, is still the administrator, and by ordinance, I mean not by ordinance, by charter, we cannot interfere with the management of the city. And we can't fire department heads, you cannot punish department heads, but you can fire city administrators without any cause, whatever. So he is the delegated representative of the council and the mayor. But the mayor is the figurehead of the city. He represents the city. And it's not kissing babies. I never kissed a baby. I hated groundbreaking, so I'd send Ted Bartlett or someone else to do groundbreaking. But I did do, you have to sign all documents. You have to be involved in anything that's promoting the city, especially the Orange County League of Cities, the California League of Cities, the National League of Cities. We went to Washington several times to testify or contact our state senator, our U.S. senators and congressmen to lobby for legislation or against legislation.
Were you involved as an officer in any organization outside the city when you were mayor?
Not really. I was on the Criminal Justice Council appointed by the League of Cities and other things, but I never was interested in holding office outside the city. Jack Green, as you know, was president of the Orange County League of Cities, did a great job. He was president of the Southern California Area Government, SCAG, did a great job. But I was never interested in that. I served on the Orange County Community Action Council, the Criminal Justice Council, and some areas that I was interested in.
Is there any one thing that you can think of that was the highlight of being mayor? Something you look back on and you say, boy, that was really it was a fun time, it was a good time, and that particular incident stands out more than any other?
No, I really can't. I think getting the industrial development started on Gothard Street was very rewarding. I can't say I was excited, because it was a very emotional struggle. A lot of people said it could never be done. Realtors, everyone said that's not industrial land, we ought to turn it into apartments or some other type of residential development. It's a very nice industrial area, and I spent a lot of hours and a lot of time on it. So it was rewarding when you finally get to see it develop and come to fruition. Hart Strassbaugh was one of the early developers. Bill Burke, Gene Ashwell, Gordon and Dick Mountjoy, Lenny Lindborg even putting in his racket club there to service the industrial area. It's made a very nice industrial area of Huntington Beach. I was pleased when we dedicated this city hall and police facility, dedicating the fire stations, finally getting the park system open. The library didn't come till later. I wasn't mayor when the library was finally dedicated. That was a long, drawn-out affair. It took 5 years to build that library. A lot of emotional involvement with that thing, but it's a great, beautiful facility. So getting the beach parking authority area developed, that was a nice improvement in the city. I felt good. Disappointed, if I can mention that.
Sure.
We never got downtown redevelopment. All the time I was on the council, and I served on the committee for 8 years. Very frustrating. I mean, I talked to Hilton hotels and Holiday Inns, and I had a Polynesian Cultural Center ready to come in, Music Town USA with Martha Holt, you remember that? And none of it ever came to fruition. We just could not keep from suing each other, fighting with each other, threatening each other. The property owners, the merchants, the council, even the council fighting among themselves. We could never get it done. We finally adopted the VTN plan just as I was leaving the city council in the spring of 1976. And I thought, finally, there will be some development downtown. The new council came aboard and threw out the VTN plan and said, we don't like it. And so they're still struggling right today with the same problem from the first day I came to this city. It was downtown redevelopment. Still struggling.
Is there anything else that they are still struggling with that you were involved with?
Oh, I'm sure they're still struggling with a lot of things. Things I supported were the 39 freeway and the 57 freeway extension coming down the Santa Ana River. But the one that killed and hurt the city of Huntington Beach the most, I think, was the 39 freeway, the Beach Boulevard freeway. We had to work it out with Buena Park, and I was mayor during a lot of this. Buena Park, Stanton, Garden Grove, Westminster, Fountain Valley, Huntington Beach, Costa Mesa, Newport on the alignment. And the state already had right-of-way on most of it. We finally got all those cities to agree on an alignment until you hit Pacific Coast Highway at the end of Beach Boulevard. There, Newport Beach says, we don't want a freeway. So they killed the freeway ever passing through Newport Beach. Costa Mesa was still receptive. The rest of us were really receptive. And then the state of California decided, well, it no longer had the money. Governor Brown had come into office. It wasn't a priority with him. And they canceled the entire freeway system, the 39 and the extension of the 57. We also lost the Coast Freeway, as you know, the Coastal Freeway. And then as far as I know, they have sold most of the lands. I don't know how we'll ever get a 39 freeway through. They keep talking about the super highway and everything. I don't know how they can handle the volume of traffic that it's going to have to handle. I notice right now, at least Supervisor Vasquez and others are talking about extending the 57 freeway. It's a new concept to extend the 57 freeway down the Santa Ana River to Pacific Coast Highway, and I just laugh. You know, we worked on that all through the late 60s and all through the early 70s trying to get it aligned, and we lost the funding.
How about things which have occurred in the Huntington Harbor or the Bolsa Chica area? Anything that occurred that's memorable back then, and how about reflections about today?
There are some funny things that happened. There's some very emotional things too, like trying to develop the Bolsa Chica. But some funny things, and I know you'll remember this, the old honey pot that was on Warner Avenue, right at the channel coming into the Bolsa Chica from Huntington Harbor. There was the sanitation plant that served the Sunset Beach area. And it was just owned by that community, and the outfall went into the surf line. I'm not going to say how far, but not more than 100 feet, I swear. And raw sewage was just being dumped into the surf. Well, the complaints of all the new development of Huntington Harbor were to get rid of that honey pot. And I went down there as a city councilman, and I went down as mayor pro tem. I may have even gone down as mayor to try to get the area annexed to the city of Huntington Beach so that we could work out some of those problems, and so that we could include them in our city. We wanted to encircle the Bolsa Chica, for one thing, so we'd have sphere of influence on its development. But the other is that Sunset Beach was part of our front door. And at that time there were parking problems, there were flooding problems, building problems, and we wanted to help resolve some of that. We finally did have elections, and they voted not to come into the city of Huntington Beach. And it's too bad. Paul Jones tried very hard to get that area annexed. And they were served by the county, and they had too many private interests and personal interests not to want to come to the city of Huntington Beach. We did service them in water and still do. We finally purchased the honey pot, the sanitation plant. We took over the service of all of their sanitation, and we built the Beaches and Harbors facility and new fire station there on that site. The Bolsa Chica itself, I always supported development. We never had, in those days, any specific plans as to what that development would be. I also supported a cut through the ocean, very controversial. I believed, and unless somebody can show me different, I still believe it would improve the water quality of Huntington Harbor, and the main thing was for egress, ingress out of Huntington Harbor. Right now you have to go through the Naval Ammunition Depot channel, and I've always worried about that. It's not a good channel. Large boats could not go under the bridge. You have to drop your mast to go under there. And one time, the old bridge on the other side was still protruding out into the water, and there were many wrecks on it. And I did play a part in getting Congressman Craig Hosmer to get the Seabees to come in and use a practice, if you will, and demolish the rest of that bridge. And it no longer became a navigable hazard. And the Huntington Harbor Property Owners Association really helped push that and support us, and well, they're the ones that came to me to get support, and then Craig Hosmer did a great job getting that through.
Any advice to the present City Council?
Yes. There's another thing I'd like to say, Tom.
Oh, go ahead.
I served on a school board with 5 people, and it was easy. Not really complex, not really complicated. You might have been even on the losing end, but you could always get 3 votes to do something. Then I came to a city council that had newly gone to 7 members. To get 4 votes to do anything was very difficult, and you could not hold those 4 votes longer than a very short period and on very specific areas. Maybe on zoning you might hold 4 votes on a certain philosophy. You came to something else and you would lose it. It just went back and forth as to who those 4 votes were on different areas of the city. We were very lucky, and I was just very fortunate to serve with some really terrific people, and we did put together at least 4 votes and sometimes even 5 or more to build the city hall, the fire training facilities, the other fire stations, the library, and the other things that we finally did get accomplished was through that unity. And after we got these main projects in place, then we fractured and fell apart again over philosophical differences on every issue that came up. but still you feel close to them. It's a fraternity. It's, you went through a lot of pain together. I suppose it's like siblings growing up and fighting, but when you get grown, you're still brothers or you're still sisters, you're still siblings. And I feel very close to the council people that I served with. My advice to people today is something that I couldn't listen to when I was young and intense and caught up in every issue, and you just, I mean, they're really important to you at that time. Is maybe Ted Bartlett told me when I was first elected in '68, he says, "Son, don't take this so serious." But if you care about something, it's hard not to take it serious. If I could give some advice to this council, it's don't take it quite so serious. In our system, like it or not, you have to give, compromise a lot. And it's hard for some people to give and compromise. It's hard for me. I think if I could serve again now, been through what I've been through, know what I know, I think I could do a better job than I did the 8 years I served.
Well, I'm not sure that you could improve on it, but I'm sure there's room for improvement in everything that we do. Well, listen, it's really been enjoyable having this opportunity to meet with you. We have just about 30 seconds left. Do you have any last comments? How about the future? What's it hold for you?
Well, I'm still slightly active in the city. I still would work for anyone that would like to get elected to the city council. I would, even at this point in my life, I would be interested in perhaps serving on a commission or something, or the Parks and Recreation Commission, Planning Commission, or in any advisory committee. I've served on one charter revision committee after I got off the council. It was the mayor's charter revision committee. They didn't take our advice, but I did serve. And so in some capacity, I would be interested in serving or helping someone even get elected, which I've done a couple times.
Well, great. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming here and spending time with us today. And thank you for letting us come into your home with this program. And a special thanks to our guest, the Honorable Past Mayor Jerry Matney. This program has been produced by the City of Huntington Beach, Cable Channel 3. And in the weeks to come, we'll be looking at highlights in the lives of other past mayors of Huntington Beach. We hope you will join us. This is Dr. Tom Cooper bidding you good day.